Page 77, Going Home. Now we're going to get a piece using this blues scale that we covered on page 76. I want to talk about this piece. It's got some tricky stuff going on here. You'll start with the right hand. Starts out not too bad, but you're kind of building this. You start out with a single note. A little louder in the next measure, you got 2 notes. And in the third measure, a little louder, you got 3 notes. And then in the fourth measure, that's the loudest of all, but it's just 1 note. Ta-da! Then we go on. Watch this fingering. When we play this, I'm going to swing the 8th notes because it's a blues, sort of a blues piece. But right now I'm going to play them evenly. So starting with the last measure of the first line, it's rest and 2 and 3 and. You're thinking, why does that only have 3 beats in it? Well, it's sort of a pickup. Actually, what they've done is the measure right with 1 beat in front, put them together, you get the full 4 beats. It's just that the measure before that with 1 beat in it is where fine is, and we're going to end the piece right there. So these 3 beats in the last measure act like a pickup to what's going on. Because this first part really is almost like an introduction, except it's also going to be used as sort of a coda to end the piece. So when we count that, the last measure, the rest is actually on beat 2. So it's like 2 and 3 and 4 and. I've had this chord that was in etude number 2 on the previous page. Second measure, second line, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3. You get that rhythm in that measure 6. It appears in several places, but it might be different notes slightly, I'm not sure, but it's the same rhythm. Go down to the last line. In this fingering, you're starting here. I recommend for these 16th notes, because typically, yes, you'd use a 4th finger on that. But this is a little awkward, because these 2 fingers don't work well together. What you can do, and what I'm recommending, is you change this fingering slightly and play the first 16th note with 3, 2, and then 4. That's much easier than that. So the fingering for the measure 13 is 5, 3, 2, 4. And then you're back on what they want. It's similar to the next measure where they're telling you the fingering. It's 2 on the F, and then you have 1, 3, 4. And so you're using 3 fingers, a combination of 3 fingers, to get this little ornamental thing in. And that's a good idea, I recommend it. So the last line, right hand, it's 5, 3, 2, 4. So it's 1 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and got a lot of E's in that second measure, and they're alternating between a flat and a natural. That's why all those symbols are there. Looks ugly, but that's really all it is. It's just 2 notes going back and forth. In the left hand at the top, the fingering is kind of important that you do this. It's a 5, 1, then 4. You want to use 3 because you're here, but the problem is we got that E natural stuck in there, so we need 4. We need this. So do the fingering they're saying. Because B flats and E flats are there. They're in the key signature. Yeah. And the idea is to be able to do that pattern no matter what the right hand is doing. Well, good luck with that. That's not as easy as it sounds. The first line might be doable, but when you get through the rest of this, I mean, that's primarily what the left hand is doing, but the right hand is doing other stuff. Usually chords, but nevertheless, it can get tricky. And that's really about all it is here. Now, roadmap wise, you see repeat signs for the last 3 lines, so we're going to play those 3 lines twice. Then there's a DCL fine, so we go back up and we play most of the first line again. The fine is at the end, toward the end of the first line. That's the way we're going to do it. You can add the dynamics, and you can improvise on the dynamics after you learn what's written. It says slowly, which is good. And I am going to go ahead and swing the 8th notes here. So it's like here. So when the right hand gets down to this passage, like the last measure of the second line on these 16th notes, 16th notes are even. So it's 1, 1 and 1 and 1. 2, 4, 1. Last line. So the 16th note is just 2 little quick notes in there. Just stick them in. It's better once you get this learned correctly if you start feeling that. Feel those 16th notes. 1. And even with the articulation, I tend to play staccatos. If I feel a staccato, I play a staccato. The music doesn't say anything, so I can do what I want. Yes, I can. I'm a rebel. There's one tricky little spot in here I want to point out in the right hand, and that's going from the last measure at the bottom when you go do the DC and you go back to the top. Because they're telling you to put your thumb on the F, the last note, and then at the top you got that B flat. There's no rest or nothing. So what you might want to do is alter that fingering a little bit in the last measure so you can reach that B flat more easily, at least for the second time. Now when you play it for the first time, the thumb is fine on the F because you're repeating back up to measure 5 on the chords. But when you play that the second time, that doesn't work very well. So on that last measure, you're here. You might want to use the 3rd finger on the F so you can reach the B flat when you go back up to the top more easily. So you have to work these things out too carefully. So I'll give us 4 counts. Let's try this very, very slowly together just to check the notes and the rhythm. If you're unsure of it, you're struggling, then play it with me just 1 hand at a time and check that. Put your hand or hands where they go here. 1 and 2 and ready and go and. Rest. There's an acoustic jamming bit at the bottom. I'd like to play that and have you play what you just played, but I'm going to play it a little faster. This is not a fast piece, but I'm still a little tempo. How it should go I think should go a little faster than what we just did. Now, if you're going to have somebody do this acoustic jamming part at the bottom here, I need to point out an error in the music because it won't work otherwise. Take a look at the bottom on that last bit, the notes that you're normally not going to play. You see in the first line, sort of in the middle, where there's a fine, that corresponds to your fine up above. The problem is they put a reverse repeat sign right there. The reverse repeat sign doesn't go there. It goes one measure later. The reverse repeat sign goes at the beginning of measure 5. That's where yours is, and that's where theirs should be. So if somebody plays this with you, make sure when they repeat, they go back to measure 5. Not where that repeat sign is at in the music. That's wrong. I'll give us 4 counts. Now let's play this piece together. Go ahead and put your hands where they go. 1, 2, and ready, and go. And 1, and 2, and 2, and 2, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. I don't know that I really need to give you an idea what this sounds like or not. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's